So the first truth you have here is he puts Abram to sleep. The covenant has nothing to do with Abraham. The second truth is he passes between the animals. It's the covenant of justification by God's grace through Abraham's faith. And it's sealed in blood. This is why I love the Bible. You can't do this with Hinduism. You can't do this with Islam. Any other holy book, it's like, I'm confused. What are you talking about? This makes no sense. You study the Bible, and it's like, my gosh, I see him everywhere. It's like he's constantly throughout and it totally fits with what is reasonable and makes sense. I can't save myself. Okay. Now we're talking about something a little different, this idea of being consecrated to God. If you go to Hebrews, oh, by the way, in the book we go through a lengthy study of the marriage vows and what it means to have a covenant vow. You realize that marriage vows come out of the Bible, right? You know, I promise to love and to protect, in good times and bad, in sickness and in health, all those things. It's all based on biblical truth, and we go through all the verses so you can see. Again, the things we live by in life have their origins in the Bible. And our culture is trying everything it can do to eliminate the Bible from teaching our children or from education because they want to reinvent what they think is true. And if you study the Bible and look at it, you're going to find how ridiculously true it is. All right, so we talked about the covenant vow, now consecration. So here you have something interesting. You have this idea of blood, consecration by blood. When you look at that word in the Greek, it means to separate unto or dedicate through death. So when we think of separation, when we're talking about God, we're always thinking in terms of this thing called holiness or sanctification, where God is saying, I don't just want you to be separated to me. I want you to be separated from sin, and I want you to be separated for me. So you're separated to God, for God, from sin. That's what he's trying to do. It's just like in your family raising your kids. I really want you to grow up for my sake, as your parent, to me, to our family, apart from what the world says. I want you to learn and trust in me. Does this make sense? That's what consecration is. And God says, through his covenant, you have to shed blood. It can't be done without blood. All right, I don't understand God's design, why he did it this way. We do a study on blood when we go through irreducible complexity, and we look at design features, and we look at blood clotting. How many people have ever studied blood clotting? Yeah, it's so cool. If I took a paint bucket or a jug full of water, and I punch a hole in the bottom, even if it's a small little hole, what happens to the water? All right, so I make a small little cut on my arm here. What happens to me?
It all comes out. Some of it does. A little blood will come out.
So I don't drain like a bucket of water?
No.
Why not? Why not? Why don't I?
Your platelets come and plug the hole.
Why?
That's how you're made that way.
So with every other thing, it all drains out, but with us, some reason it doesn't. Okay, that's weird. Then, if I took a bucket of paint and I left the lid off, and it was outside, what would happen to the paint? It would all, quote unquote, clot. It would become hard, the whole bucket. When my clot forms and stops the blood flow, how come I don't become like the bucket of paint and I just seal up on the inside and I clot completely? We go through this. There's an equation in your body. It starts with Hegman factor. When you get a cut, it's a protein. There's 32 proteins involved. They form an equation. When Hegman factor gets activated, you get all these other proteins that start being activated, and they go to fibrinogen, and fibrinogen then forms this clot. And then after it forms and it's healed, another protein from thrombin goes into effect and reverses it with scissors, goes and cuts up the clot so it's just skin to prevent you from becoming like the paint bucket. And it operates on what they call auto cascade. You don't turn it on, it just happens by itself. Excuse me? So when God says life is in the blood, We can see it by just studying it. Life is truly in the blood.